On a team stacked with Hall of Famers, Sam Jones stood out for his ability to deliver in the clutch. A knockdown shooter, Jones played a crucial role in the success of the Boston Celtics dynasty, winning an amazing 10 NBA championships.
At guard from North Carolina College, at 6'4", number 24, Sam Jones.
The big thing about Sam Jones, he was such a reluctant scorer. Did not want to be the dominant ball handler. He was just that kind of guy. He didn't want it. And that was unfortunate for us because he was the one we wanted to give the ball to almost every single time up court. And we would look for him and force the ball on him. And he would take the shots in the last few seconds and do things that we expected a top shooter to do. He was so reluctant to do it. But there was no question in anyone's mind about his capability.
Sam Jones, did you know he was the state champion in the state of North Carolina in tennis? No? See? You learn something every day. Sam is as nice a gentleman as you could ever meet, and he was so quick and so fluid a money player. Down the stretch, you didn't want to see Sam Jones with the basketball.
Right now to Sam Jones, he's good!
One of the greatest shooters in the history of the game. Sam, the bank shot. When you shoot a basket from the front of the rim and it hits the board and go in, most people say it's luck. Sam could do that from almost any position on the court. He had mastered that shot.
Oh, Sam is unbelievable. Sam Jones came out of North Carolina, hit more game-winning shots for Boston than anybody alive, and did a great job for the Celtics. It's a good thing the Celtics drafted him because once Cousy and Sharman left, they were left with two great guards, K.C. Jones and Sam Jones. And who could want anything better than that?
Senior NBA.com writer Sean Powell, for as much as Bill Russell was the anchor of the Celtics defense, they needed to be able to score. And the equivalent of Russell on the offensive end was Sam Jones.
Well, Sam Jones was sort of the original shooting guard. Along with Jerry West when he came into the league, Sam Jones was 6'4", had a beautiful jump shot, was very accurate for that age, where everyone else was shooting around 40, 39%. He had a career 45% shooting percentage. And he was the go-to guy whenever the Celtics needed a bucket, particularly in the playoffs. Bill Russell anchored the defense. Sam Jones, for a lot of years in that Celtics dynasty, before John Havlicek came along, anchored the offense.
So we truly have to give him a whole bunch of credit for the 10 championships.
Well, I would say so. He had a role. Bill Russell was obviously the centerpiece. He was the guy who came up with the big plays defensively, grabbed all the rebounds. But the Celtics were a machine back then, and usually offensively, the ball ended up in his hands, and he dictated, number one, where he was going to shoot, and number two, how many shots he was going to take. Amazingly accurate for his time. He had a beautiful jump shot, 6'4". He had the size, the strength, and the speed to excel in that position and get his shot off.
How do you think Sam Jones should be remembered?
I would say a guy who was consistent, a guy who raised his game based on the playoffs when the stakes were at their highest. Sam Jones was there for Bill Russell. Bill Russell obviously was there for all of his teammates, but Sam Jones was there for Bill Russell.
The year that we got behind the Sixers 3-1, and we come back and we win 3 straight, 2 of which were in Philadelphia. Now we get down to the last game, 7th game, we have 2-point lead, it's like 7 seconds to go in the game. Wilt fouls me. I was trying to hide, but he found me. And he fouled me because I was the worst free throw shooter on the team. So I go to the foul line. I take the first free throw. I missed really bad. Sam walks up, says something to me. I take the shot, I make it. And everybody says, well, what did Sam say to you? That we really need this? No. All Sam said to me was, you didn't flex your knees on the first free throw. And if you don't flex, you're not a very good free throw shooter. If you flex your knees, you can make the shot. And the only thing that he was interested in was execution. And it has nothing to do about what this shot means. It has to do with execution of the play.